Travis Wayne Goodsell. I was reminded of a prophet claiming that tomorrow is the date of the second coming of Jesus with his rapture. Apparently, it wasn't until the 1830s when Christianity started claiming that there was going to be a thing called a rapture. Even though it's not widely accepted among most Christian groups, according to the news article. Nonetheless, that's where the rapture comes from. Creatio ex nihilo. (1830s). So, yep, sure enough, the Book of Mormon likewise exposes the future fraud of a second coming rapture. So I get to add that to my list. Second coming rapture. Nonetheless, the guy's name is Malekla. I didn't butcher the accent too severely. He has a YouTube video that YouTube forbid me from downloading, despite fair use, that I discussed over the weekend. Nonetheless, he is quoted as saying, "I saw Jesus sitting on his throne, and I could hear him very loud and clear saying, 'I am coming soon.' He said to me on the 23rd and 24th of September 2025, 'I will come back to earth.'" So that's assuming that he is even real in the first place. Everybody's upset because they want to deny truth. That their version of truth will reign supreme. So that's really all it is. So tomorrow we find out if he's a true or a false prophet. Matthew chapter 7, starting verse 15. Wearing a very nice suit. Very nice suit. So yeah, the Mormons have 4 different Latter-day Second Comings. If you don't count Joseph Smith's second comings of Jesus. And then there's the Book of Mormon second comings. And then there was a second coming in the Bible. "Don't touch me, woman! I have not yet ascended to my Father." That's the second coming. He died, was buried in the tomb, he rose, he appeared again. Second coming. How can Christians be so deeply illiterate? I don't understand. Again, the Book of Mormon clears this all up. Clears it all up. And yet, TG, Jesus Christ, second coming, for section 45, verse 44. Oops. Bruce R. McConkie made a boo-boo. He will know no better than he knows now he's wrong. So, section 45. No, let's not do that one first. Well, from Zechariah. So let's go to Zechariah first. So there's Trump again. Trump's all over the place in the scriptures. Okay, 48. So it should be Zechariah 14. Yeah. Zechariah 14, verse 4. And his feet shall stand in that day upon the Mount of Olives. This is in Zechariah. It is not this. I'm gonna check the Hebrew. Hopefully I won't be cyber terrorized. Fascinating. Because it does use the Z of Zeus. Yeah, it could be a version of Mount Olympus. I have to do more research on that. Mount Olympus is Zeus, his home, and it has the cross for the heavens, Zeus of the heavens, death, afterlife. It could be Mount Olympus. Like I said, I still have to do more research. But a preliminary examination, it does seem to fit Mount Olympus. Hey, Utah has a Mount Olympus. Didn't watch that video I did you? Videos. Did one recently. So, and his feet shall stand in that day upon the Mount of Olives, which is before Jerusalem on the east. Yeah, on the east. The east mountains of Utah. And the Mount of Olives shall cleave in the midst thereof toward the east and toward the west, and there shall be a great valley. Yeah. With the Jordan River. And half of the mountain shall move toward the north and half of it toward the south, even though they're talking about horizontally rather than vertically. But we do have those. We have the roads, the I-80 and the Little Cottonwood and Big Cottonwood Canyon roads. I think there's some others. And ye shall flee to the valley of the mountains, for the valley of the mountains shall reach unto Azal. Flee like as you fled from before the earthquake in the days of Uzziah, king of Judah. Isaiah chapter 6, verse 1. YouTube, they were on a cyber terroristic terror this morning, yet again on Monday. The new schedule to be pissed with the videos I did over the weekend. unbelievable. They will never leave me alone. And all they have to do is be good and stop trying to murder Trump, and I'll leave them alone. You know, I leave Christians alone, even though they trash the Bible. But, you know, the church wants to let Mormons go, then I have nothing to report on. Don't need to warn Mormons anymore. It's that simple. But I get constantly attacked. It's a religious hate crime. Mormons just don't give a damn. It's not a religious hate crime if it's false religions. Because they know damn well about the Scripture and the Doctrine and Covenants. They also can contend against no other church but the church of the devil. That's all I do. I'm being obedient. And Mormons get upset. They don't do their research. They claim to be dumb so that they can saved in ignorance. So, yeah. So Joseph Smith adds, you know, that's the wounds in your hands and your feet thing. So Joseph Smith adds, down at 51, then the Mormons shall look upon their Christ, who is a fellow Mormon, and say, what are these wounds in the hands and the feet? Joseph Smith adds feet. And that's when he will have the 200-pound Egyptian gold plates, putting his hand or feet upon the Mount of Olives, Mount Olympus. And there's, see, crucified. Cross, not a T, a cross for Chi. Yep, and then Mormons are going to be sensitive snowflakes weeping for their iniquities because they persecuted their king. And if you're going, it doesn't say Mormons, Travis, it says Jews. This is Joseph Smith. Did you read the verse 1? Hearken, O ye people of my church, not the Jews. God, they want to be dumb. Mormons just don't give a damn about the truth. If we be dumb, then we not be judged. And then we go to celestial kingdom for being at a lower level of intelligence. So, now we're going to get to Moses here. So first, got to go over the Jews. It's kind of important since it's their scriptures that Christians usurped and destroyed. So, as tonight at 6 p.m. is the New Year's Day, so there really isn't a New Year's Eve, it's a New Year's afternoon transitioning into night. And so, this is when Adam and Eve were created. According to the Wikipedia person who put it in, 3760, which, you can fact check them on this. 3760-2023. Yeah, this is not accurate. 75. Yeah, it's off by 6. That's what I did in the video today. So 3 days. So it's 3763 when this occurred, unless they're trying to claim that the creation was 3 days before the fall, and then that's when the Jews start the calendar. Why are you listening to Christians? You know they're out to get you. You know everything is a lie from their lips. They draw near to the Lord with their lips, but their hearts are far from Him. They preach for doctrines, the commandments of men. deny the powers of seer, prophet, revelator, and translator, Paleo, Hebrew, and Egyptian. You know this, guys. Come on. What the hell are you doing with the biblical Hebrew text? Dear God. You fell right into the trap of Constantine. So, yeah, the new year is associated with Adam and Eve being created. This was the same situation for the ancients, the Egyptians as well as the Assyrians. I'm unfamiliar with Babylonian wedding practices, but I'm aware of the Assyrian version as well as the Egyptian version of celebration for the New Year. That's when they'd have a big parade and the king with his wife symbolizing their original marriage ceremony to the temple to get married and then conceive there in the temple. And then the Greeks decided, hey, let's pay the women to have sex to reenact this, to turn them into prostitutes. And then when they took over the Jerusalem temple, the Jews called it the abomination of desolation, as spoken of by Daniel, and Christians botched that one bigly. And so, yeah, I can see where the tradition of the Jews is doing this. It's claiming that on New Year's, Adam and Eve are created and begin having sex. And so it's not the fall, though, guys. That's tomorrow. The Feast of Gedalia. Yeah, there it is. It's 2 days later on the Thursday, 25th. The assassination of Gedalia with Zedekiah, which Mormons should pay attention to that. I'm not going to review that again. You can do it yourself. You know how to do it. If I can figure this out after being released 10 years ago, 11 years ago, you guys should have already been on top of how to do Google search. Tishri, Gedalia. They have a link to click on it for. And so, yes, Book of Mormon starts us off. 23rd September 2017. Hilarious. There we have Gedalia with assassination. And it's 11 years later, which, yeah, we're 11 years later in the latter days. 2014 was when the parable of the 10 virgins began. So yes, as the expert in the subject matter, I am hinting very strongly about the Feast of Gedalia, as it is associated with the Book of Mormon. And so on the 10th is where I wanted to get to. 8th, actually. And leprosy is getting the better of me today. 8th then is the 30th, if I remember trying to figure it out previously. I do have the calendar up. Let's use that. So, let's see, 30th of September, yeah, 8th of Tishri. This caught my attention, even though the dating obviously is wrong, because there is no dating for this. If you've been watching my channel, numerously talking about Solomon, there's a reason why archaeologists have never found King David, King Saul, and King Solomon at Jerusalem. You will not find them there. You could find Solomon, because in Paleo-Hebrew it's King of Salem. It's a title, not a name. And so every king at Salem, Jerusalem, is Solomon. That is their title, being the King of Salem, King of Jerusalem. Having deciphered Paleo-Hebrew, I'm the only one apparently who can figure out Jur. No other scholar can figure it out. No rabbi can figure it out. They just guess and say maybe New Salem. No, come on, guys. Come on. You have Yah and the Egyptian hieroglyph for God, the God Yah of Salem. Real simple. The Hebrew God. Nevertheless, they didn't decipher Paleo-Hebrew, I did. So this starts the 14-day dedication as talked about in the Bible after the first temple is built. And so, yes, likewise, go back to the Feast of Gedalia in 582, 11 years later, after Jerusalem is taken captive or is occupied, and then 11 years later it's destroyed on 9th Ave. And so here we have the original construction completed of Solomon's temple, and Nelson got utterly humiliated because we still have 2 more years for the Salt Lake temple. So the temple is dedicated for 14 days, which is the week before Tabernacles and the week during Tabernacles. So that's the significance there. Because the Jews, because of the botching of Christianity, don't understand that this is a prophecy of the latter days, and so they think it's literal history. So technically, Moses was before 300, 200, maybe 400. Is there something with Moses here that I can reference? Oh, yeah. 1313 for Moses on the 10th. And so, 400 and 450 with this one scripture that Christians botched quickly. Nonetheless, and so he did that in symbol of the Festival of Tents, with the building and completion of the temple. That the whole concept of the tabernacle's tents of Moses' Exodus finally resulted in the building of an actual temple, not a tent temple, tabernacle. So that's what they're doing there with that. But as long as you understand that all of this is prophecy and calendar dates and clock times, you can correctly understand what the Jews should be thinking of, rather than literal history. So, that's the 30th. And so the 2nd of October is Yom Kippur. Christians call that Judgment Day with the second coming of Jesus. Judgment Day, Yom Kippur. Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints does this whole atonement crap of Christianity. No. By their fruits you shall know whether a prophet is true or false. Tomorrow we'll find out that the rapture guy is false. As the article mocked him with his lack of understanding of Christianity, and nonetheless he still mocked him. And so this is where Christians got it from. The 10th of Tishri, 2nd of October, Yom Kippur, the day of the writing of the fruit, the finishing, the completion. Temple of Solomon, finished. 14-day dedication. You really should learn the Jews. The learning of the Jews. Book of Mormon told you to do it. Why don't you believe the Book of Mormon? And so this is when Moses, the Jewish Christ, who is not real, he's a prophecy of the Mormon to Mormons in the latter days, thus Mount Olympus. And we do have to cross the mountains through a valley to head to Zion. And this is his second time getting those tablets, the law. Yeah, it's really simple. Agency. And so, yeah, first interrupted by the golden calf. So this also needs to be understood in the sense of Joseph Smith is the first tablets, then Aaron, Brigham Young, with the abomination of desolation. That's the whole thing with the golden calf. A false idol god set up to be worshipped by Mormons, different temple rituals, and orgy sex in that story. Other stories is prostitution. The abomination of desolation. Brigham Young, forcing Mormons to pay tithing in order to turn off their factories and only turn them on after getting married and only for kids. Otherwise, turn it off again. And they've sort of slacked off on that, but hey, Jesus is coming tomorrow. He's going to be attending conference, I understand. You knew I was going to talk about it if it's going to be in the title. So yeah, that's why I used to have the golden calf scene with Oakes and Nelson's head. Everybody gets angry. Ooh, Travis! If only Mormons understood, you'd be weeping like sensitive snowflakes. Weeping like sensitive snowflakes. And so, yeah, this is the second coming of Moses, who is the Mormon in the future latter days. And Christians botched it bigly. So that's what Matthew 24 is all about, when Jesus, as Joseph Smith, is talking to his apostles. Brigham Young as Judas, of Judah, Utah, phonetically the same, not a coincidence, and yet it is, because nobody realized what they were doing when they were fulfilling prophecy. Nonetheless, the coming of the future Mormon, who would have the keys of Moses, not just the keys of Peter for preaching the Book of Mormon as Jewish, not sowing tares of Christian Jesus to choke the wheat of the Jews. And then he would restore everything. Tabernacles, dedication of the Zion Temple, the New Jerusalem in America, in southern Illinois, where the cross is of Emmanuel. So But all of this is all fun and games until it fails. I am so ready for this to be over with. I'm literally stuck until Jesus finally comes so I can move on. Alrighty. So, Exodus 34 is the second coming. As 33 is the 33, huh? 33, huh? Is Aaron and the abomination of desolation. That is quite funny. They did use the Bible to plot their attack in the latter days. And so Sinai is being used here instead of Horeb. Sinai is the kingdom of Osiris. S is not the water symbol, Paleo-Hebrew sign. It's the Dej pillar of Osiris. And so the N is kingdom for place and king for person. That's why Solomon, king of peace. And so yeah, this is the restoration of Joseph Smith's church. The mountain cities of Zion and New Jerusalem. I should read that over for you, with you guys, because that's really cool stuff. Then we'll finish. We said what we're going to say. So now the question is, where did I put it? It's probably in these files. Yep. I have this on Academia for you. It's footnoted with verses. Okay. And so it says that Zion and New Jerusalem is going to be economically run like the storehouse that Joseph Smith set up for the poor and the needy. And so he's talking to his people in his day. Now let all who can, coolly and deliberately dispose of their property, come up and give of their substance to the storehouse, that the hearts of the poor may be comforted, and all may worship God together in holiness of heart. Come, brethren, come all of you. So it's very clear why Brigham Young did not want this published, because his section 119 dominated his 1844 Doctrine and Covenants. Not to mention that verse 7 is Brigham Young as the enemy who's going to murder Joseph. And then come in the latter days with his descendants to coup America, murder Trump, and blame Jesus for it. So then Joseph Smith prophesies, here in verse 9 also, and I prophesy in the name of the Lord that, after talking about the storehouse, Zion and the New Jerusalem in the state of Illinois shall become great and mighty mountains as cities set upon a hill that cannot be hid. And if you go to the original document in the Joseph Smith papers, you'll see that you have to read the full context of his talk that did not get edited for publication because Brigham Young was upset with enemy using the Last Supper. From Mark. Joseph Smith is just awesome. And it's too bad Mormons hate him. You know, the people who made the Kinderhook plates to try to trick Joseph Smith and then exposing him as a false prophet, his translation was hilarious. Yeah, he was a descendant of Cain through the loins of Ham, who were denied the priesthood. And all ex-foes missed that. So yes, he's talking about two mountain cities, describing them as a mountain that shall be hid on a hill. And so yeah, Zion and New Jerusalem. I put in new, as you'll notice, to make you understand that he's referring to Article of Faith number 10, that Zion, the New Jerusalem, will be built upon the American continent. And yeah, there's the candle that shall be hid, and a great candle that giveth light to the world. Mighty mountains. That's why I was able to justify putting in Zion and New Jerusalem, not just Isaiah that says, on Zion will go forth the law, and out of Jerusalem the word of the Lord, or vice versa. Hinckley tried to force that to show that it's the conference center. All nations shall flow unto us, and we shall make business deals and pay the Judas price to destroy the world and blame Jesus for it. And then thus it's not anywhere else. It's not Missouri. He tells you it's not Missouri. But he says the city of Nauvoo also shall become a great city. So it's not northern Illinois. That's why I'm able to say it's southern Illinois, because I already know where the signs are over America and blah, 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 that Joseph Smith is referring to. See if I can find that. Build up for a place of safety for his children. 12 okay, yeah, here it is. The 12 olive trees are 12 stakes which are yet to be built, not the temple in Jackson County, Missouri, as some suppose. Independence, Jackson County. For while the 12 stakes are being built, we will be at peace, but the nations of the earth will be at war. Okay. So some other fun stuff. Be the place of gathering. Very clear. It's not, this is it. We just got to purge out the people who are not allowing this to be a place of peace, safety, and refuge. Then it can be a place of peace, safety, and refuge. No. It will be so from the beginning as it is built. And so, yes, keys of Moses in order to have this happen. Holy clouds, holy lawns, without money and without price. But how will we pay for it? Well, transfer of authority, which is transfer of records, transfer of all assets. Blessings, pharisaical faces. Now is the time. Now from this hour bring everything you can bring, and build a temple unto the Lord, a house unto the mighty God of Jacob. So this is what I told you about in the video the other day, is that you can't just be an idle Mormon, a casual Mormon, waiting for Jesus to do everything for you. You've got to be actively involved, knowing that there's going to be a storehouse in Zion, and that you need to contribute to the storehouse, because that's the economy. And so preparing for Zion is, what will you contribute to Zion? Bring everything you can and build the temple with the storehouse. So what have you been doing with your life? What good are you? See, me, I was told from my earliest years that I am good for nothing. My dad repeatedly told me, you will never succeed in that career or that career or that career, and you shouldn't even dare go into that field. You're good for nothing. And so this is fun. We will build upon the top of this temple a great observatory. That's my home, by the way. And it's fascinating because in 2008, as I had my Hinckley dream, I had to hypnotize myself in order to get to sleep with the deprivation torture that they were providing for me, thanks to D. Todd Christofferson. And that was involving my creating a hypnotic scenario in which I placed myself at the top of the mountains in Oregon, forested, and I had a cabin there. And so I would walk in to my cabin, and then I would go around to each room of my house to show myself what's in each room. And the longer it took me to get to sleep, the more I could see and would expand on what was in my house. And I eventually had stairs that went up to the roof with an observatory. So little did I know, my home at the top of the mountain. And a great high watchtower, and in the top thereof we will suspend a tremendous bell. I'm not sure about that. It would be kind of cool. The Giza pyramids were designed with the limestone coating to give off just a tremendous light reflection when the sun is shining off of them, so that people from miles away can be blinded by the rays of the pyramid reflecting the sunlight. And even the Alexandrian tower or a lighthouse had a light in it as well to shine out into the Mediterranean for the sailors. And so I can see that happening. Not sure about the bell though. We'll think about that. We'll think about that. Because we'd have to figure out how to get it acoustically out. And maybe just the location would work, but he's talking about his day, but it's prophecy of the latter-day temple. Then comes the ancient records. Yeah, all of them. Dig them up. Mormons were supposed to be archaeologists. Mormons were supposed to go over to Egypt and collect all of the Egyptian documents. Oops. And bring them forth. All of that's supposed to come to Zion. 200-pound Egyptian gold plates. bruised in the hands and in the feet in the house of my friends on Mount Olympus. And then shall the poor be fed, and no rich and poor. There is no monetary system of economy. That's from the Book of Mormon. And then people who survive the World War III will come and see the cities of Zion and New Jerusalem, like the Queen of Sheba to Solomon's Temple. There'll be schoolhouses only teaching science and logic. There will be a place for the arts, all forms of art, but that's not educational. There is a difference, but yeah, everything. And then physical fitness also will be involved to perfect human. And so schools established, which apparently people out in the world will want to have their children educated there. And they will be under strict rules. Which is just one agency. You aren't going to be an Islamic terrorist coming to America, to our school system, so that you can learn how to build a bomb or fly a plane into a tower. That will not be allowed. And blame the Jews. So yeah, that's Solomon's Temple. He's calling the pyramids as Solomon's Temple because of his final. I made the change, they ignored it. Nelson got up and created something new that, oh my God, chief cornerstone of the cornerstone? How could you botch that? All you had to do was read. And nobody would have thought different. But chief cornerstone of the cornerstone, huh? Oh my hell. So yeah, that's where we end. He wishes that he could live to behold the temple completed and finished. From the foundation with the cornerstone to the top stone, capstone, pyramid. Dear God. See, Joseph knew how to translate correctly the mistranslated Christian crap. He put it in Jacob, or he didn't put it in Jacob. Daddy did. But, you know, that's why they talk about Solomon's Temple in the Book of Mormon. That's Daddy and his York Rites. 200-pound Egyptian gold plates of the York Rites, Knights Templar. In this sign, you will win. Unfortunately, there are only 5 people. That's not enough. You know, they don't even go down to 5. Did you even watch that video and read the first scripture? No. Yeah, YouTube was not wanting to show me my views. They were not happy.